All right. You good?
Yep.
Okay, let's get it. What's good? We are here. You already know what time it is. This is the Agent Talk podcast. This is Joshua Grady here. And today I am joined by a very special guest, a good friend of mine, someone that has definitely taught me a lot, just giving me some gems and some tools in regards to some things that I'm trying to do moving forward, some business ventures and just someone that has grown to be an individual that I can rely on to give me some just much needed guidance, when the opportunity comes. So Marcus Wingate is here. He's officially here with us. Marcus, glad to have you on. Just off the top, for those that maybe have no idea who you are, never heard of you, never met you, who is Marcus Wingate?
Man, first of all, thank you for having me, Joshua Grady, Agent Talks. It's been a long time coming, man. We supposed to
Yes,
been
sir.
do this, but we here in God's time.
Yes.
Man, if they don't know me, I'm doing something wrong, so I need to keep working on my brand and my profile. But I'm Marcus Peter Wingate. That's how I like to introduce myself. I'm fully out there with it. I'm originally from Palm Beach, Florida. Moved to Michigan when I was 10 years old and grew up there. And then came back to the University of South Florida, graduated from there, and I currently work at Wasserman, a global sports agency.
So let's pull it back a little bit. So you play ball, you play football, played at USF. Just real quick, I guess, what was your college football experience like playing it at? Because that's an elite level, you know what I mean? It still is. What was that experience like for you playing, college football?
Woo-wee. How much time do we have? I'm going to try to keep it as succinct as possible for you. But my experience, man, to me, it's unique. I wanted to be a college football player since I was about in the 10th grade when I found out, I'm like, wow, I'm pretty good at football. I'm a little short, so my basketball, my hoop dreams were crushed as far as going to the NBA. But as far as college football, man, I was a walk-on. I went to the University of South Florida because truly, I really wanted my family to watch me play if I was able to make the team. And my family's from Palm Beach, and the University of South Florida is in Tampa for those who don't know. And so it's a 3-hour drive. I mean, I know my family would make that for me if I was out there balling and do my thing. That's nothing. And it's like, and then obviously I wanted to be in Florida. It's a great state. It's where I'm from. I want to be close to my family. But that walk-on process, it was unreal. For me, it was long and arduous. I tried to walk on to the team 3 times, and I did not make it. I ended up working in the athletic department for 2 years as a communications assistant, and really I was just a hustle man. My coaches eventually called me hustle man before I even made the team because I was working on their coaching staff. And I actually ended up leaving the University of South Florida. I had the opportunity to walk on at Grand Valley State University, which is an elite Division II university. And it was an awesome experience, man. I met my best friend up there. I got some really great tape in practice. And I love to tell this part of the story, man.
Yeah,
One of my first practices, man, I bombed their number 1 returning defensive back. They asked me, did you play in South Florida? I'm like, in the back of my head, I'm like, ooh-wee. I don't like to lie. God don't like ugly, but I should have lied because I went up top. I should have been like, yeah, man, I played. Like, it's time to get it in. But
yeah.
Long story short, I did not say yes, and I ended up just being a practice player. But it was an awesome opportunity, great education, a great year there. I met a lot of great student athletes at Division II level, so I have a lot of respect for those athletes there as well. One who's currently playing in the NFL right now, his name is Matthew Judon, and for those of us who he's nice, man, and he's been nice, and he's just a great dude overall. So it's like that talent is at Division II, so it was no slouch. But for me, it's funny. Like I said, I moved to Michigan when I was 10 years old. I lived there for 8 years. My parents ended up living there for 10. And you'll never guess the month they moved back. And I'm going to let everyone know it was the month I actually got up to Grand Valley State. It was still 3 hours away from where my parents lived, but it was like, man, I get here and they leave, but they go back to Florida. So I actually spent that year in Michigan on my own. But I was in college, so I was just doing my thing and getting my education and playing ball. You know how it is. And then from there, it's like at the end of the year, the coach said, he's like, you're a good player and all those good things, but it's like just the way their program's set up, it's like they said they were going to out-recruit me. They like building guys as freshmen. They redshirt every single freshman. The only freshmen to not redshirt at Grand Valley State are Brandon Carr, and that's about it. And Brandon Carr, he's a guy. So from there, I was like, I'm going to transfer back to the University of South Florida, continue. My parents are back in Florida, so I can finally get that in-state tuition. And the dream was always to go D1, man. I wanted to be a director of football operations at the time, just because it was like they looked like a sweet job, you know what I'm saying? Like you get to be around ball all the time. You're just doing some logistics work, and that's what I wanted to do. So like I said, I was back when I was initially at the University of South Florida. I was an intern, so I was doing communications at women's basketball games, men's basketball games, volleyball games, doing all of that, working throughout the athletic department. I ended up becoming a recruiting assistant. And so I met the coaching staff at the time, and it was really special to me because it was all black coaching staff. And so, as you know,
that was Taggart?
Yeah, Coach Taggart, man. So a quick brief on Coach Taggart. So he was at the University of South Florida. Then we obviously had a few great runs there. So he ended up going to the University of Oregon, actually the year that I graduated. And then he was at Florida State, and now he's at FAU. But Coach Taggart has been nothing but family to me, and especially Coach Woody. Like I was saying, I was working in the athletic department, and they really looked out for me, man. It's really special when you can really when you're working with people who look like you. You don't really get that a lot as a black man here. We're only 12% of the country, and that percentage gets smaller when you go into the NCAA and you're talking about head coaches and administration. So for me, they're my OGs, man. They were looking out for me. But the best part is, like I said, I was at the University of South Florida. I transferred to Grand Valley State. I got back to USF. I ended up becoming an admin assistant for the football team. And that was just my way in, man. I was like a double agent for myself. I was doing the admin work because I wanted to be a DFO. Like the DFO who was there, he was a cool guy. His name was Sherrod Everett, a good man of the Lord. And he taught me the game. And same with Trey Hackett. He was the assistant DFO. And so they're really teaching me how to get it done. But I was on a mission, man. And I got that good film at Grand Valley State. Like I said, like, I bombed their number one DB my first practice. And then when we got into our actual like one-on-one practices, it's like I'm making plays as a receiver against starters. It's like I'm still baffled. I'm like, man, I can't touch the field for a second. Mm-hmm. And so, but I'm showing them that film. They're like, oh, you got a little something to you. So I was like, man, they gave me a shot to walk on my senior year. And by the way, that's a fifth-year senior. So I went to the University of South Florida for 2 years, Grand Valley State for a year. And then I was on the administration side of football my fourth year in college at the University of South Florida. I got to go to the Miami Beach Bowl, and so that was a really cool experience, our first bowl game at USF in 6 years. And then that summer, they gave me a shot to walk on. It was a wrap. It was a wrap. And for those people who don't know about walking on, it's a dog fight, man. Mm-hmm. It's a dog fight. I was over there on the field. We wore white shirts. We're nobody, and you got to accept that. It's like you haven't proven anything. No one knows who you are. You got to make a name for yourself. You got the players practicing on the turf field, doing their drills. Like they going through it, but man, those walk-ons, we running like 4100s in the first quarter, and then we take a 15-minute break, and then we start running cut 300s, and we run like 12 of those. It was like there was no shortage of running and working out, and so. But the second they let me on that field, man, all they try to do is a walk-on is break you. And the second they let me out there and told me they gave me a shot, it was over. It was a done deal, man. I had to get on the team. Yeah. And so, needless to say, I said summer, but it's actually that spring. I made the spring team. I got to do my thing. I got to practice through the spring. I made it through the spring workouts. Even got a few plays in the spring game, which was really cool, a really great opportunity for me. And then I made it the summer. And for those who don't know about college football, really every semester you trying out. It's like even as a scholarship player, it's like they can cut you in a way. It's like so you got to really prove yourself. And so that's what I did over the summer, man. I was the hardest working man in the building because I was working. I was going to workouts, and then right after that, I was going to my internship at a data analytics solutions company in Tampa, Florida. So I was grinding.
So let's go back a little bit. So let's talk about a little bit working with a college team, because I don't know, I've never done that. I played ball, but I never, worked behind the scenes whatsoever, especially at that, because I'm assuming, maybe you're 20, 21 at that age. What was that experience like working the behind the scenes of a college football program? Because that's not a view I think many people get.
It's interesting for me. it's kind of like a naivete for me. Like I was just really enjoying the experience at the time, and it's like I'm working with the coaches. It's like I'm printing off recruiting schedules. It's like this is how you get through the city of Miami. This is the best routes to get through the schools, and I'm just making myself a resource. Whatever the coaches need, I'm on it. He's like, you need me to make a phone call for you. It's like I got to make a smoothie run. It's like as much FaceTime I can give the coaches, as much as I can learn. It's like I was an assistant. I was a grunt, and it's like that's what all sports are like at all levels. It's like you got the runners, man. And it's like I was a runner, I was a hustler. It's like they even nicknamed me Hustle Man. I don't even think they really knew my real name, to be honest, man. They called me Hustle Man because they would see me at the facility working, and then they would see me at a basketball game working. They might see me at the car wash washing their car. They're like when do you sleep? What what else do you do? And so I think I really left an impression on them, and so they really gave me that shot. I don't really know what made them give me that shot, but I thank God that they gave it to me. And working behind the scenes, it's interesting. You get to see all the dynamics, man, because in college athletics and life in general, it's all about relationships. And so we're social creatures, and so you just really understand the dynamics, like which coaches are trying to be head coaches. It's like which coaches are like really got beef with each other, and then you look at the coaching staff versus the administration, and then you see the student athlete experience, and you really just start to understand how college athletic works. Like, for instance, a head coach is like, a lot of people want to get into coaching because they want to change young kids' lives and all those great things. But it's like a head coach is like, you're like the president. It's like, you're not actually on the ground floor all the time. It's like, and there's just so many rules when it comes to compliance. It's like, you can't even talk to the guys sometimes. Like, this is a dead period as far as like talking to your recruits, or like you can't actually coach the guys. Like, you can have normal conversations with them, but even that kind of gets a little muddy. And so there's just those disconnects that the institution puts in place to really disconnect the coaches from the players. And so it's really tough, man.
Someone that has a college experience, and you kind of talk about, the regulations that and restrictions that are, in place, without getting too deep, someone, again, that has worked, within college football, what is your, I guess, quick opinion on the NCAA as a whole and just how it's ran, the treatment of athletes, whatever it might be? Like, what are your current thoughts on everything going on?
Ooh, you trying to set me up, man. You trying to set me up.
Yeah, you ain't gotta go too deep, but I'm just curious, man.
No, I'm gonna keep it canon honest. You my guy. This is your podcast, so we're gonna keep it real for all the folks. They need to know. Actually, I worked in compliance for a little bit, so I was building out schedules. Okay. Hey, man, like, check the resume. I did it all. Like, I just need to put Hustle Man in and put every bullet point. Like, I was doing it all. Like, any way to get that experience. Like I said, I wanted to work in college athletics. Like, I wanted to be a DFO. And so those are things you have to know. It was always funny. People were always like, oh, you're going to be the AD someday. You're going to be the AD someday. I was like, man, you never know. Hopefully, that's a blessing. But as far as compliance, man, it's just a really antiquated system. It's like the NCAA, and you talk about student athletes making money off their name, image, and likeness, and then just all the rules and regulations. It's really not set up for the student athlete to win. I'm not saying student athletes can't win, because you see it all the time. It's like you win despite the institution. You don't win because of the institution. It doesn't really seem like the rules are set in place to really protect and then even elevate the student athletes. It's really to protect and elevate the NCAA, and that's prevalent when you look through college athletics, because the NCAA is getting rich, and then you got players who go hungry. You saw the Shabazz Napier situation back in the day, and it was like, he's like, I go to my dorm room hungry. And it was like, you're a national champion. Like, what is that about? And it's like, but also that's a major point in NCAA timelines. Like, that's when student athletes were finally allowed to have snacks. And it's like, snacks is like, you can get, is like, what are you putting into your body as a student athlete? Are you putting in junk food? Is like, you can't put in that 83 when you a Lamborghini. You need that high octane.
That's good. That is a good point. And that's a good point. Now that you said that, like, I hadn't thought about that in a while, but the moment you said that, I was like, man, that is so real, so true. You got a national champion that's talking about, and he can't even afford to, get a meal real quick. So, but I'm sure we'll talk about that in the future, on another episode, because there's plenty that you can dive into when it comes to the
Oh yeah,
NCAA, when it comes to the structure, but I think we
that's
are
a whole
definitely, yeah, it's a
that's a
whole
whole
nother,
another topic.
yeah. But I will say, I think we are seeing that the future is going to be athlete empowerment, and I think that's where it's at. So, okay, last question, I guess, in relation to college, I do believe like my college roommate was a walk-on. His name is Trey Wilkins. This is actually Jordan's older brother. Was a receiver as well. Never got put on scholarship, so he was a walk-on for 3 years, and I saw it like you see the grind, like you see how certain things are a little different. They don't get certain favors or whatever it might be, certain benefits that a scholarship athlete, gets. And for him, he like you talked about, I think bright futures, or the in-state tuition, excuse me. But like with Trey, Vanderbilt private school, man, that's bread. That really is. And plus, you're going to school still having to, do everything a
Hmm.
scholarship athlete is having to do while proving yourself. How
And
has
more.
that, yeah, how has that experience being a walk-on, because it is a grind, how has that experience transferred to life after ball?
I'm happy you asked that question, man, because especially during this COVID era, just been doing a lot of reflection on myself so I can continue to even learn for myself and grow. And I actually take it back to that. It's a 10th grade when I told you, it's like, I know I want to play college football, and I only actually wanted to play college football. I didn't really have dreams of playing the NFL. Education was important to me. And so with that being said, I just created this narrative. Like I just wanted to play college football. Like I thought that was a really healthy challenge for me. And as far as the grind, I think I was at an advantage compared to my student athlete friends, because like they were on scholarship. Like, how the NCAA is. It's like they're there to play football. They're not there for school. It's like for me, I was there for school. So like anything a coach said to me, you know what I'm saying? Is like at the end of the day, like I can really walk out. Like I'm gonna be straight. It's like I'm here because I truly want to. Whereas like when you're a scholarship player, it's like you're kind of there because you need to be. It's like you may not have had the resources to get into school without your athletic ability, and that's really sad to say. And on that point, it's like once you get to college, like that's not the point. That's not the point where you should learn how to be in college. Like you should be learning that in high school. And so it's like the disservice is done way before the NCAA. But for myself personally, like being a walk-on and transferring to life, it just taught me how to grind, man. It taught me how to grind. It taught me how to build relationships. But most of all, being a walk-on, it just taught me to chase what I want to do in life. It's like I wanted to play football. Like I thought that was going to be a challenge for me. Like I thought that was really cool. It's like I don't even think there's a stat of how many walk-ons there are across Division I. It's like you have all the stats of 1% of high school players get a Division I scholarship and all that, but like what about the walk-ons who make the teams? Like where the stats for that? I'm sure that those stats are so non-existent because it's like the sample size is too small, and it's like, or it's not worth tracking. Like who cares about a walk-on? Like that's just reality, and you have to accept that. Like you have to be able to grind to that. And so it's just like in life. Like it's like if I go to a job and I'm an entry-level worker, it's like I'm entry-level. Like nothing is beneath me. Nothing's beneath me even if I was a CEO, but it's like even more so when you're entry-level. Like you got to prove yourself. And so it's just taught me to really never think anything is beneath me, and nothing is. It's like you can always make an impact and make a difference. It's like if I'm the janitor, this is going to be the cleanest locker room in the country. If I'm the CEO, this is going to be the best business in the country. So you just really take that mentality and you win. It's a dog fight every day.
I like that. I like what you're saying about how no job is below you. And really, especially in, I think, with our generation, I think future as well as older as well, is we can think that we deserve so much more. And when we do that and we live like that, then we don't even take the time to, embrace the opportunity that's at hand. Because someone could have been like, I've been playing ball since I was X years old. Ain't no way I'm walking on. I'm too good for that. I got too much pride, whatever it can be. And that's something that I think really hinders a lot of people from, achieving their dreams, is that ego. You can't be you can't be no hustle man if you got pride walls everywhere. Like it doesn't work like that. So fill in the gap for me. So you were officially done from USF in what year?
2017, I graduated. My football career ended in 2016, but that next year, that 2017, the year turned. So I graduated that spring of 2017.
Okay, so from USF to now, fill in the gap. Like, where are you? What are you doing? What's life like? What's the vision looking like? So on and so forth.
Yeah, I'll take it back to that final season. Like I said, I was an intern at a data analytics solutions company here in Tampa, Florida, called SME Solutions Group. So I was literally going to practice from like 6 a.m. to 12 p.m. and then I would go intern there from like 1 to 5, and then I would do my homework in the evening time, and then do it all over again, 365 for me at the time, or at least 24/7. And then from there, I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do, man. I got to that, like, you have football in the fall, but I wasn't graduating to the spring. So I was like, I'm in this weird limbo. Like, I'm not really a student athlete like I am, because like I played football, but it's like, also people have to realize about my situation is like, I was technically on the administration side before I was a student athlete. It's like, a lot of the administrators are like my peers, like people that I was 21. So like, we hung out, like, but when I was a student athlete, because of compliance, like I can't do that, which that rule is good and set in place for a reason. But it's like, I was trying to figure it out. And the one thing that I always do is I listen to my OGs. And so I was just really getting their perspective on how successful I could be at the time. And I was reaching out to my athletic director. I was reaching out to some senior associates. One guy who took me under his wing, his name's Elander Wells Jr. And so just really the administration's on your side, but what student athletes have to do, again, I was a walk-on. It's like, I have no pride about asking for help. And so at that time, it's like, I had no pride in asking this man for help. And it's like, that's what student athletes have to do. You have to go seek out those people who want to help you because they are there. So like, the institution may be against you, but the people within it are not. So you have to be able to find those people, and they really help guide me to where I am today. And so I say that to say the athletic director really thought the graduate program at the University of South Florida, it's a sports business program called the Vinnick Sport and Entertainment Management Program, named after Jeff and Penny Vinnick, the owners of the Tampa Bay Lightning. And so the head there is Dr. Sutton, and he used to be an NBA executive. He was a right-hand man to David Stern. And so that's a lot of knowledge, a lot of power, and I really wanted to learn from someone like him. And then one of my best friends, who's actually finishing up law school right now, was already in the program. So it's like, I already felt like I was in the program for 2 years. He was one of my best friends. We were roommates. So like, I knew about the program, and I really wanted the credentials to have an MBA, to have an MS, but really I wanted those 2 years to network, to really find out what do I want to do in life and what don't I want to do. And so from there, I remember like going through all my classes and listening to all our speakers, and this one company always made like my top 3, my top 5 list, and it was Wasserman. Like, just hearing about like the autonomy that you have within the company, them being an agency, and like them really, if you have an idea and you think it's a good idea, like they will let you do it. And so that's something that really appeals to me. Like, I'm not someone who can kind of like just sit down and do like the same thing over and over again. Some people really like that, and I respect that. You need those people. Like, for me, I know is that one day when I'm a CEO, I need someone who's exactly like that, because I need someone to keep me organized and keep me on track, that wants to do the same thing every day. Don't bother them. Let them do their job. Mm-hmm. You got to let them do their job, because them doing their job helps you do your job better. And so from there, I started at Wasserman. I actually graduated early because I got the job April 1, no joke, pun intended. I got the job April 1, 2019. Yeah. And from there, I've continued to go on. But I'd be remiss if I didn't let everyone know. And during that time, I was actually an intern for Grady Sports Agency. And so what Grady Sports Agency did for me was, one, let me know I don't want to be no damn agent. But like that's I said,
yeah, that's real.
You gotta know your role. You gotta know what you're good at. It's like, I need people to be agents so I can be a better marketer. It's like I need that person I can interface with to connect me with the athletes. Because another thing I know is like, an athlete doesn't want to have those marketing conversations. Not for real. Some do, and we appreciate them. Right. But outside of that, it's really the agent and the marketers just brainstorming. Is like, how can we make money for this athlete? And obviously the agent gets a cut and the marketer gets a cut, like whether they're salary or they're working on behalf of brands. But it's like, we're doing all this on behalf of the athlete, and sometimes they don't even really care to have input. And so that can be frustrating. But for me, I embrace the process because I love what I do, and I know you love what you do. And so I saw how much you love what you do. I'm like, wow, I don't love it as much as him, and you have to grind. And so like, that's not a grind that I wanted. I wanted a different type of grind. And I really got to flex my marketing muscles and really learn by trial and error and trial by fire. You gave me an opportunity just to really see what I'm good at, and you really took my ideas and ran with it. And so that was a really fun process. And something that's more important to me is that you're just a young black man trying to get it just like myself. And nothing's more important than keeping those good people around you. Like when you have young people who are grinding, trying to get it, success is inevitable. It's not a question.
Correct. So true, man. And so I guess for the viewers, so me and Marcus actually, because it's just crazy. My dad actually called me one day, and we had met, I think, a few times at Impact, you know, high and by, whatever it might have been, you know, I actually had conversations, but it was a call that I had with my dad. This was when I got to the point, and everything that you're saying is so true about having people around you that can have different skills that, you know, are, well, I'm good at this, but this person's good at that, and being able to come together. Because for me, I was at a point where I finally realized I can't make the vision happen on my own. Like, I can't do that. I had a mindset like, oh, when it comes to marketing ideas, I have the best ideas. But that's not the case. And I think that's what the internship especially did for me. It was like, oh man, like he's talking about stuff that I have no idea about. I've never heard of. Like I would have never came up with some of these ideas. And it really opened the box, I think, for me as well to realize like how much power and the importance there is in the marketing. So flipping it just a little bit now, where you are, you know, you kind of hinted at a lot of these athletes don't understand, and you even have the hat on right now. You know, I'm more than an athlete. We're seeing an athlete empowerment movement happening truly right before our eyes. However, a good amount still don't get it. A good amount still don't understand that they need to market themselves, that they need to start a brand, that they need to connect with companies, whatever it might be. One question is, why do you think it's so hard for athletes to get it? And two, why is it so important for an athlete to really be more than an athlete? So kind of two-part there.
Of course, I'll start off with the first part about why they don't get into it. I'm not sure. I speculate that it can look difficult to build a brand. They might look at a LeBron James and see I'm more than an athlete and see uninterrupted, and they see just how much that is, and it looks busy. But it's like what they're not understanding is like he has a team. He's like, I doubt he's at every meeting doing this, that, and the third. Like if you listen to conversations with Matt Carter, he's like, I go through, listen to it on the boardroom. Kevin Durant show is like, he's like, I go through 20 meetings and I bring in LeBron when it's time to actually make the decision. And it's like I bring him in on the decision, but not the meetings. And so they see the work and they honestly don't want to put it in. And one thing about life is that you just have to be comfortable with people. And when they show you who they are, it's like you have to believe them. And so if they don't want to put in that work, you don't waste your time trying to convince them. It's like let someone else who's doing the work inspire them to want to do it. But after that, you can't talk to someone who's not listening. Like you don't want to talk to a brick wall all day. And so I think they're afraid of the work, or not even, maybe afraid is not the right word. They're just unsure, and them being unsure means they're not going to make a decision. And so I hate to say, like, time is valuable, so you can't waste your time. But you obviously want to stay on them. You want to just continue to let them know like this is valuable. But if they don't want to bite, you got to be comfortable with that. You can show them all the examples in the world, but sometimes it just has to hit them.
Yeah, so true. Why is it important? If you have there's this random athlete, maybe he's a USF football player, he's a senior, he's been balling, he comes to you, Marcus, I'm getting ready to go to the NFL, but, I'm realizing, it's not for long. I don't know what's going to happen with the league. I really want to start focusing on life outside of ball. I want to brand myself. I want to market. I want to network, whatever. Why is it important for that individual that might be listening right now to start allowing himself to be marketed, to brand himself, to build himself something outside of his sport? Why is that important?
Two reasons really stick out for me why it's important. And one is, why would you not want to make money being yourself? Like you're telling me, it's like, I'm Marcus and I can show up to Hillsborough High School for a 20-minute engagement and make $10,000 for just showing up? It's a no-brainer. So why not build my brand to a point where people just want to pay to see me, to talk to me, to hear about my experiences? Like, why would I not want the next podcast I'm on? Why would I not want that person to pay me 10 G's because like their audience wants to hear what I have to say? And that's what building a brand does. It's like try to get LeBron on the podcast and find out how much money that is. Like That's why it's important. But on a personal level, it's also important because it holds you accountable. Building that brand, like who do you want to be? You really have to discover and communicate who you are. And I think that's another thing that really scares athletes from getting into the branding space. They don't know who they are, and they don't know the steps to take to know who they are. And also they don't know who they want what they want people to perceive them to be. Is like you like Deion Sanders. He's a perfect example. People really think he's this chauvinistic, misogynistic type of person. It's like that's a man of the Lord. He don't smoke, he don't drink.
Yeah.
Like,
that was prime time that he showed. Yeah.
Because he knows prime time makes money. So that persona, that's him. But that's one version of him, because I know Grady, the agent, is different from Grady, the husband, Grady, the father, Grady, the friend. It's like, those are different people, like the same person, but like the time, attention, the care, like you give to those situations, it's just different because people are different. So for your brand, it's okay to be different. Like, look at Dennis Rodman. Like, I'm sure he's the sweetest guy, and like he might look crazy to some people. It's like, I personally think what he's doing is dope. It's cool. Like, he's out there, he's capturing attention, which is important for brands, the right brands, of course. It's unreal. Like, it holds you accountable, but I think a lot of athletes really need to understand, like, building that brand just allows you to be who you want to be long term and get paid for it. Nothing's better than getting paid for being yourself.
That's true. That's a good point. One person that has definitely been a light for me to work with, at least, has definitely been George, being so open to certain things. And it really does change the game when you finally have someone that's willing to listen and follow through, to where now you're able to have conversations with certain brands, the individuals behind the brands, the CEOs that are talking about, long-term partnerships and relationships that, quite frankly, just don't happen if you put yourself in a box, as in, I'm just this athlete, which I think is unfortunate. But I do, again, think that we're seeing a movement of guys understanding that there's more that they can do. So a quick question for you then. So at its basic root, we use the word brand. I think that's a popular term now. Like that's the same as content. Certain words are becoming, those flash words. What exactly is a brand? Because for athletes, in their head, when they're here, they think Nike's a brand. They think Under Armour, Adidas, Gatorade, and they're correct. But they also can be a brand themselves. I guess at its simplest level, what does it mean for an athlete to himself as a person be a brand?
For an athlete as a brand, it's really just communicating who you are. Like, that's what a brand is. A brand is who you are. Like, what are your values, and what does the marketplace perceive as your values based on what you're putting out there? Like, at its simplest form, a brand is who you are.
The other word, content. You have enlightened me on content, on the need for it, what it is, why it's important to have content, the impact that we can have in the digital media age that we are in. What is content, and why does a quality brand need content?
Content is king and queen, queen and king. Content allows people to see the brand. Like, you want to be able to engage with the brand, and that's what content allows. Like, go walk around. I mean, it's COVID-19, but once we get out of this, go walk around a highly populated place and see what people are doing. They're on their phones. I bet if you look at their phones, they're probably scrolling through Instagram. Nowadays, it's probably like TikTok. And it's like, that's content. They're consuming content at all times. So you want to put yourself in a position where the eyeballs already are. You're not trying to take attention and put it somewhere like, I'm not going to go to the middle of the Atlantic Ocean just because LeBron's in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Like, LeBron has an Instagram account. I'm going to go see what he's doing on Instagram. I'm going to go look for him. Well, you should go where the people already are when it comes to content. And so that's why we make content on Instagram. It's like, that's why you see TV ratings going down. You see TV ratings going down because people have alternatives. And so you'll see a brand like a Microsoft is like, they made a partnership with Stranger Things because it's a cult classic. People love Stranger Things. They followed it. Nike made a Stranger Things pack. I'm sure they made a few $100 million off of it. They got paid off of it. Yes. And so that's the purpose of content. Like, you want to build your brand big enough that people just either want you in their content, they want to put their brand on your content. Like that is honestly the dream, because that content, again, it's just showing who you are. And whether you're writing a blog article to show your thought leadership, or you're making a short film just to be funny, like, that content is king. It shows who you are. It's fun and it's engaging, and that's just where the eyeballs are. So that's why content is queen and king.
Yeah, that's very real, man. And it's funny that you wore that hat, because when you talk about content, really the first piece of content that I watched that I felt made it real that I could do something too was the More Than an Athlete series that was on ESPN Plus with LeBron, Mav, Rich Paul, and I think the other guy's name is Randy. I'm not sure. But
Randy, he's the chief of staff, man. He the real OG. That's right.
Yes. But really just watching it, you see, okay, it tells you about LeBron and them story, which inspired me as well, starting with everything with the agency. But then you go on YouTube and you start watching uninterrupted stuff. You see certain interviews that they do, certain conversations. They did one that was like, man, it's so simple, but so genius. They were in Toronto, and just like this meeting room, and it's LeBron. I want to say it was LeBron, Drake, and Chris Bosh, I believe, or Maverick Carter, Drake and Chris Bosh, but they were in Canada just chopping it up. And I'm like, I'm watching this. Like, and all they're doing is talking about life. They're just talking about life, what they did with the shop. You and I have had conversations with the shop. And it's just organic content, bringing people together, talking about real world, talking about ball, talking about the NCAA, talking about civil rights issues, talking about whatever it might be. And then you're just bringing value to the people where, in the age that we live in, man, one thing Whitney Holtzman, who you also introduced, one thing about this man, let me tell you, one thing about this man, Marcus, if you ever need anything, he knows a guy or he knows a gal, okay? So just let it be known. But Whitney is a lady that Marcus introduced me to, and one phrase that she said is so real is, we live in an age where you really have to be able to create thumb-stopping power. Being able to create something where, you're scrolling, but some so engaging in that first half a second that they stop, and now you've got them, and it's so real, man. It's so real, and it's so important, and it's definitely something that you really paved the way, because I didn't realize. I knew, when it came to the marketing content, I knew it was important, but I just didn't realize how important it is, and even for what I'm trying to do, that's really what got me started with the podcast, was your just constant, like, you got to put yourself out there. You got to put yourself out there. So as someone where you are, you're working with one of the most well-known, companies that work in entertainment and sports and marketing and branding, everything. What, I guess, is your long-term vision for yourself as someone that you're still relatively young, but you've collected a lot of this knowledge, this information, you've made yourself now a valuable resource and an asset, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, like, where are you? What is the ultimate goal for yourself?
You said it there, man. You talked about making myself a valuable asset. And so long term, I want to appreciate this value, man. Continue to grow. I'm a guy, I love my agency. If Casey wants to make me a CEO one day and groom me, I love that. But ultimately, I want to be able to create opportunities for people who look like me, and even beyond people who look like me. Like, I want to be someone that's able to create opportunities. And fortunately or unfortunately, however you look at it in our country, like I said, I was a walk-on. Like, nothing's beneath me. It's like, so I want to be able to create economic empowerment. Like, I want to be able to create opportunities, and the only way you can create opportunities is through economic empowerment. So any way that I can help bring people together and we can all make money together so that we can create more opportunities for folks, like, that's what's truly important to me. And just in this phase of my life, I'm trying to work with people who want these mutually beneficial relationships. Is like, you eat if I eat, and we are, and I'm hungry. You know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to eat.
Yeah, there's so many. That's something I try to tell people, man. Is we can do so much more when we work together. Like, we really can. There are so many pieces to the pie. That's like, I can get mine, and Marcus can get his too. We don't have to be stingy.
Man, life is so abundant, man. It really kills me where people try to just really lock away their ideas. It's like you said earlier, it's like we were just chopping it up. Like you thought you had the greatest marketing ideas. It's like I thought I had some pretty good ones. And so when we're bouncing ideas off each other, it's like that's when we get to something special. Two smart guys. I like to think we're smart guys. Like you went to Vandy in Florida. You got some degrees, man. An economics degree from Vandy, master's from the University of Florida. You degreed up. So it's like bringing those ideas together is like we're only gonna make something special.
Yeah,
and that's what it's all about.
You had said early on, it is inevitable. It really is.
Inevitable.
Okay, last few questions for you. So, right now, so you're 26. You got a stable job. You're in a career. You're pushing your vision forward. Obviously, you have a lot of growth. Ahead of you, a lot of great achievements that you have yet to untap. If you were talking with somebody who maybe is 18, someone who has not yet walked the path that you have walked, what would be one piece of advice that you would want to turn back to give to the person that maybe is looking at you as, okay, that's the goal? What would be that one piece of advice that you would give to that person?
Someone who's 18, I've spoken with a lot of people. I speak with people like yourself. Like you work for a big time marketing agency, and then you went off and did your own thing. A good friend of mine, Jared Barnes, he just had a goal of his where he's like, I want to start my own company. And through that experience, like starting your own company, you learn about profit and loss statements. You learn about all those things you learn about in business school, but you're out there you're out there generating income, generating revenue. And I would say anyone who's 18, like start a business, whatever you're interested in, just do that. You're going to learn so much. You're going to learn how to create value. Like that's what a business is. Like every successful business brings value to someone's life. So starting your own business is really learning how to create value for others. And you and I, we talk about that creating that value creates opportunities for others. And we want to be able to create opportunities for people. So start that business and create those opportunities for yourself and for others.
I like that. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you started something recently. I've been seeing on Instagram some shirts or something with are we allowed? I don't know. Are we allowed to talk about that?
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah, what's that?
Well, in the wake of the George Floyd killing, two good friends of mine, like I was telling you, it goes back to my OGs, like Ulander Wells Jr. at the University of South Florida. He was a mentor of mine, and now he's become a good friend. And then, like I said, one of my best friends, my roommate in college, who's now in law school, they were brainstorming around, like, what can we do to educate people about Black history, but how can we make it fun? How can we make it cool? They want to integrate technology. They want to integrate fashion. And then similar to our conversations, they bring me in. It's like, Marcus, like, you're in this space. Like, what do you think? And so it's like, my biggest thing is like how to bring separate ideas and bring them together to execute. And so what they wanted to do is create this company where we're creating content, and it's bite-sized content. I'm talking about 2-minute trailer style content, but to really ignite discovery. You want people to want to know more about Black history. So if I'm telling people about Tampa, Florida, I'm like, if you lived in Tampa, Florida your entire life and you don't know that there is a thriving Black community here called the Scrub, it's like that's a disservice that the education system has done for you. That's a disservice that your city has done for you to not know it's not just Black history. It's American history, and it's our history. So
it is history. That's it. It's history.
It's history, period. And but it is also Black history, and it's important. Like you should know that. You should know the reasons why that community is no longer thriving and bustling. It's like I'll drive around that area now, and to me, it just looks a little bit of appropriation because they had a thriving event there called Encore, and now they're basically gentrifying the area, and the area is now called Encore. Like that doesn't even make sense to me. That is, for me, is not a case for reparations, but I'm just like, man, like you really just ripping the game and doing it like that. It's like when non-people of color are like wearing dreads and cornrows, but not like paying respects to where you get that from. It's like if you look up a picture if you go Google like non-business haircuts, it's like you see a bunch of Black people in dreads, and but if like pardon me for anyone that just offends, honestly, like I don't want to offend anyone, but it's like if a white person is wearing a dress, it's like, oh, that's so cool, this, that, and the third. Is like, but if it's on a black man, it's like, it's unprofessional.
Correct. They make you cut it. If you go to the home, you got to cut your hair. You work at certain places, you got to cut it. You know, that's so true. That's a good point, bro.
But it's not even specific to white, black, this, that, the third, because it's like the older generation is like, I might have some hair like this. It's like, this isn't great, but it's like, if I have freshly, quote unquote, nappy hair, they're like, oh, how come your hair's not combed? I'm like, this is a hairstyle. It's 2020. Like, I'm a human being. Like, the way I wear my hair does not define who I am. Like, I don't want to be out here looking raggedy or anything. Like, you got dreads, like, have a fresh twist. Like, I'm not saying none of that. Like, have a fresh lineup. Like, don't be out here looking ugly. You know what I'm saying? But like, you gotta come correct. But when you get into those conversations, the biggest thing that I do know, because like I did not mention it earlier, but I lived in Florida and then I moved to Michigan. I moved to northern Michigan. It was a town called East Jordan, 2,500 people, one stoplight, one black person with two black parents, and that was me. And so I grew up in a very contentious area where it's like they just really don't understand what it's like to be around black people. Like, they thought, oh, like, do you want to be a rapper? It's like, I walk around town, they're calling me nigger. I'm like, man, like, what can I do? Like, I'm just riding my bike going to hoop with my white friends. Like, well, I gotta be a nigger. Like, I don't understand. And it's like, people really say there's not racism. And so what Clotilda is doing, that's the shirt company, and really the overall company that we're doing, is really just educating people about Black history. We want people to discover, like, Black history is rich, man. It's like, we've done so much for this country. This country's been built on our backs, and it's like, people just really need to truly know, like, the black issues didn't stop with President Obama. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're still fighting a good fight, and people really need to understand, like, we are more than. Man, I'm at a loss for words. I get a little fired up about this subject. Yeah. It's just really tough.
I like it, man, and that's so real. One, because I seen y'all, I didn't know it's to that extent, but I've seen just on Instagram, y'all post a little bit, man. One, kudos to that, because I think that's something that's needed. That's something that me and my wife, my wife's white, and she is very adamant that Roman is taught what needs to be taught and what is true, what is real, not what has gone in certain history books written by specific people to give us specific propaganda. You know, we really need more truth out here that needs to be shared. You know, so one, kudos to y'all for doing that, and any way I can help, man, you know, that's major. So
I appreciate you. Sorry to cut you off there, but this is for Roman. Roman, when you can understand grown words, it's like the company's name is Clotilda, and that really comes from the last slave ship that touched American soil in 1860.
Wow,
what people didn't know about 1860, the international slave trade was illegal for 50 years. Mm. So, and guess why those slaves were brought here? On a bet.
Yeah. The
slave owner was bet, I bet you can't get slaves from Africa to America. He really said, bet, I'm gonna go do that. It was illegal. He's like, I'm pretty sure punishable by like death, lynching. And they brought the slaves here. They took the slave ship upriver. They burned it. So no evidence, because someone caught wind, and he actually got tried in court. And you know how it go back in the days, 1860. Mm-hmm. He got off. And now their family has a bunch of land in Mobile, Alabama. There's a state park named after them. Mm. It's like, even though slaves, they had to buy land from him. It's like, when the Civil War happened and slaves were free, it's like, these are Africans. These aren't these aren't like first generation Americans. They're not second generation Americans. They're Africans. It's like, the slave owner didn't send them back to Africa. He didn't give them land. It's like, they really worked to buy the land from the slave owner. So the slave owner got paid again, and they made their own town. And then they were actually a bustling community, had their own town, their own church, their own systems. But then from there, you know how racism is in America. So it's like the town got destroyed, and now it looks like a ghost town. It's just unfortunate. It's like, that's their history. But the slave ship actually just was discovered in 2019. And so it's actually a true case for reparations, because the slave owner couldn't get tried because that slave ship couldn't be found. But since they found it, it's like, that's actually a true story for reparations. And so, but the biggest thing, it's not about the slave ship. It's about the people. because those slaves, they had children, and their children had children, and their children's had children. You know what I'm saying? And so they're owed whatever they're owed. Like we can get to that point, but they're owed. But we're all descendants from slavery. Every African American in America is a descendant of slavery. But even our brothers and sisters in the Caribbean went through colonialism. Even our brothers and sisters in Africa went through colonialism. People's favorite thing, well, people against the cause, favorite thing to say is like, well, Africans sold you. It's like, well, that's a problem too.
Yeah.
But it's like that's
doesn't negate all of the other wrongs.
Right. It's like it doesn't at all. It's like they were just trying to get a check. It's like the same thing you did in America. So it's like, why are you trying to deflect from the issue? It's like, we're talking about this issue. We can get to that. It's like, if Africans owe us reparations too, I'll take it. It's like,
why do you think so many individuals are hesitant to talk about slavery, to talk about the wrongs of the past, to talk about, Black Wall Street and Tulsa getting burned down? Why do you think so many are not willing to learn and to have these discussions, even though they're so important?
It's unfathomable to them. They truly don't understand. They don't want to understand. It's like, think about it. It's like they put those pictures in black and white. I think like there's pictures of Rosa Parks in black and white, but like there's color. And like
MLK, they said they put them in black and white so that it would seem like that was so long ago when it really wasn't.
Yeah, it's like my dad was alive when MLK was alive, and America was very racist during those times. So if you're trying to tell me America's not racist, but those same people are alive and those same people had kids and passed that along, it's like I said, man, I'm 12 and 13 years old, walking around the city in northern Michigan, getting called a nigger. It's like people who call me their friend, like really my classmates, like people who really call it, like would call me a nigger. It's like, what am I gonna do? It's like I'm one black kid in this all white school. It's like in fifth grade, my very first year, is like I'm on the playground. A kid called me a nigger. So I'm in fifth grade. I went at him. Yeah. I'm in the principal's office, and so it's like my dad was like, yeah, you really can't fight him. It was like, and I understood, and so my dad's my OG, so I listened. But it was just tough, man. It's like I can't let the white people talk to me. I can't let them call me a nigger. But it's like at the end of the day, it's like I have to rise above it. But should I have to? No. But unfortunately, it's the reality that we're in. And until, like I said, we have that economic empowerment, and it might not be for us. It might not even be for Roman. Like Roman's gonna have to take up the mantle for his kids. It's like being black in America is just to really understand. It's like we don't want a white savior. We don't need a white savior, but it's like we do need white allies. And until the majority really wants to acknowledge and really make right the wrongs that have been done to our community, and just really open their eyes and open their minds, open their hearts to the situation of Black Americans, there's not going to be change. And so even within Black people, it's like we have to band together. Like I think about it almost daily, man. It's like do we need our own land like Native Americans? Can we get a few patches of land just to do our own thing? And like America, can you leave us out of it? Like what is it? Or like can we have some power in America so we can truly live? It's like people see people like LeBron James, and like LeBron James is a once in a universe type of person. Like Michael Jordan, same. Is like those people, like they're unfathomable type of people. It's like I'm not about to be 6'8", one of the greatest basketball players in the world. It's like I'm just a walk-on. You know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to get mine, and I'm just trying to get mine and help others get it too. And it's like we do have that power. We do have that power, but we are held back by the system. But we can overcome.
I think two things. One that you just point out is the economic empowerment. This man said something. I have no idea who said it, but he was talking about, not to get too deep, but it needs to be said for sure. And he was saying during the civil rights movement, he said we had so much focus on civil rights, having certain laws, whatever it might be, which completely understandable, respected it. But what he also said is there should have been more emphasis also on civil rights, as well as spiritual growth, spiritual reformation. And he was basically alluding to these are the two things that we need right now more than ever for the Black community. And this is just for the country as a whole, to be honest. But for us in particular, is learning how to become self-sufficient, learning how to really educate ourselves. Like what LeBron, one thing you talk about with LeBron, what he's doing with the I Promise School, you know, really putting together tools and resources like what you're doing with the shirt so that people can become properly educated so that, hey, look what we did overcome. Like, look at what we overcame. Look at what our ancestors did and realize how much power you have. Like, we can change the world.
I wear this hat for a reason, man. Like again, I lived in Michigan, so at that point I became a Midwest kid, and LeBron James is my favorite player. And just to see everything he does off the court, you know, I wish he never lost those championships because I'm sick of hearing about all that. Because he's one of my favorite players, and you know, out of mutual respect, especially in the industry that I work on, is like I hope to not meet LeBron, but I hope to do business with LeBron. I hope to do business with Mav and to help our people, and so that's something that's important to me. But to your point, is like when slavery ended, and even during slavery, is like we built our own schools. Like no one taught us. We had to teach each other, and we didn't even know how to read and write, but we still had to teach each other how to read and write. And you see the great Black Americans through history who learn how to read and write, like a Frederick Douglass or like a Nat Turner. And it's like education is so key for us, but that economic empowerment, we're really in that point where we need to have that economic empowerment. And the biggest thing is we cannot help others unless we help ourselves. So like you said, we have to be self-sufficient. We have to have financial discipline, and then we have to be able to instill that discipline into others. But we can't go out here preaching the gospel if we're not living by the word.
Facts. So true. Simple. That's simple. Okay, last few questions for you. One off the top is, you know, you've done a lot of great things. You're someone that I really look to as like, man, you know, if I gotta keep one thing Lewis House said that stuck with me is like you gotta keep I forget the official name, but it's like you gotta have a group around you that's basically like your advisors. You know, your
board of directors.
Exactly. You know, your board of directors. This is it, and you are definitely one of mine. So you know, you're someone that I definitely look to. You know, for guidance, for knowledge, everything of that nature. For someone in your shoes, you know, you've done good things, you've done the walk on, made the team. You know, you've worked behind the scenes. You're with a great company now. You're doing, you know, got the clothing, everything going. You know, got some things rolling. What would you say where you are right now in life is the one thing that you are most grateful for?
Oh, that's strong, man. You didn't prep me for that one. That's strong. Yeah, I need you to edit out the long pause.
If the person cannot come with an answer instantly, that means it was a good question.
1,000%. Yeah, I need you to edit out this long pause, and I need you to answer that. I need you to ask that question again.
Okay. We'll get it good. We'll get it in it. Okay, one more time. So where you are, you know, with everything going on, you're someone, you know, you made a team from being a walk-on. You know, you're with a great company now. You've learned a lot. You've done great things. You got the clothing brand going. You know, really pushing the vision forward. What would you say is the one thing that you are most grateful for right now?
I'm grateful for the relationships. That came to mind at first. I asked you all that just so I could really sit on it, but it's the relationships, man. Like, I'm on this podcast for a reason. I met you for a reason. It's like I even think about God blessing me with my parents. It's like I have privilege in that regard as a Black man in America. It's like my parents were able to do things for me that, I mean, I'm sure even white parents didn't do for their kids. Like they really looked out for me and was able to put me in a position that I am today. And I want to be able to provide that for my family and my kids. And it's like I said, like I didn't become a walk-on because I ran a 4.3 and I'm 6'4". It's like I truly believe I became a walk-on just because of relationships. Like you talk about having certain guys in your team, it's like you gotta have those character guys. I had good grades. I was probably on the team for that reason too. And it's like guys that are just gonna work. And so and I still have those relationships today, man. Like my coach's son is like my little brother. Like we used to work out together and used to train. He plays at Florida State right now, and like I wish nothing but the best for him. Like that's really my little brother. I tap in with him once a week. And it's like I just thank God because I go back to East Jordan, Michigan. And it's like when you live in East Jordan, a small town, 2,500 people, it's like I remember growing up and like they thought like Michigan football was like that was it. Like Michigan football is God. I'm like, I know people who play for Michigan. Like they're cool people. They're not God.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, and now it's like I probably have the opportunity to work with those type of people. It's like one of my best friends, his homies, played for Michigan, and now he plays for the Rams. And it's like if I wanted to talk to that guy, I'm sure he's like, yeah, sure, why not? Like that's no big deal. It's like, but back when you're like a 12, 14-year-old and you're looking at like college football, you're like, oh my gosh, like this is the greatest thing ever. And college football is pretty great. I'm sad we're not going to have it this fall, but it's not. But I am grateful for the relationships because I've learned something from each person that I've crossed paths with, and I really do believe that God continues to ordain my steps. And as long as I move towards that purpose I think he has for me, that I'm going to continue to do great things in this world. And like I said, for us and for anyone who wants to grind like us, it's inevitable.
I like it, man. Those relationships won everything. Relationships are everything. Those Franklin used to tell us, it's not the grades you make, it's the hands that you shake. And it's so real.
Yes,
so,
sir.
Yeah. What, Marcus, I want to say first, I got two more questions for you. But one, just want to say thank you again, for being on. This has been a good discussion. I'm sure it won't be our last time. Been meaning to get you on for a minute, but we have so much to discuss. So I'm sure we'll get some episodes out after this as well. Before I ask you a final question, where can people listening to this connect with you? Where is the best place for them to follow your journey, connect with you, stay up to date on your progress? Where is that?
So yeah, we talked about branding, and I've been doing that on my own. You can find me on most social channels at Positively MPW, and so on Instagram, on Twitter, and on LinkedIn. Like if you're trying to talk business, definitely hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm pretty good at checking out my messages there. Instagram is fun. I don't post a lot on Instagram. It's more of like a research tool for me and to see what my friends are doing, like in their stories and stuff, and just cutting up a little bit. And same thing with Twitter, just cutting up with the homies. But if you want to talk business, holler at me on LinkedIn. I'm always open for a conversation. And really, to anyone listening, between 5:30 and 6:30 a.m., we can have a conversation.
I like it. Yeah, perfect. Last question.
Eastern Standard Time.
Eastern. Don't hit him. Don't hit him on. You got one of them European time zones, and he's fleeing. But last question that I have for you. So we'll fast forward. You're at the end of your road, end of the journey. You've done whatever it is that God has you set out to do, and you are given a microphone, and you got 30 seconds or 10 minutes, however long it takes, and you're able to leave the people one thing from Marcus Peter Wingate, whatever that your elevator spiel is that you can leave to the world. This is the only thing that they'll ever take from you. What is it that you would want to impart to the world if this was the last thing you had to say?
Cultivate your relationships and build a legacy that will outlast yourself. And that's it.
Simple. Cultivate your relationships and build a legacy that will outlast yourself. Yeah, I like it. That's going in nuggets. Okay. Marcus, I appreciate you being on here. Again, this is the Agent Talk podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, please throw us a subscription, a thumbs up if you got any fruit from this. If you're listening to this on the streaming, Apple Podcast, Spotify, they say leaving a 5-star review helps. So I would appreciate that. You can follow us on Instagram at Agent Talk. This is at Agent Grady _ on my social for me. And aside from that, this is Joshua Grady here with Marcus Peter Wingate, and we're out.
Man, we not out, man. Y'all go follow my boy on all social channels. He's dropping that knowledge 24/7. Like, if y'all need to know anything about anything, that man Grady knows. He be dropping that knowledge. So y'all holler at him. He's one of the best guys I know. And I'm not blowing no smoke. Like, it takes a special human, you know what I'm saying, to really – he took a chance on me. He's like, I'm in grad school, all that, this, that, and the third. But he's like, he took a chance. I was in his internship program, and we've been growing our relationship since then. It's like, the biggest thing I love, man, is like, you can always tell people to follow up with you because this is a fake stat, but I think it's real from field research.
Okay.
98% of people aren't going to follow up with you. And Grady and I, we follow up with each other. and the relationship, the brotherhood is there. It's tried. It's true. We going on multiple years now. We got a lifetime to go, man. So I'm thankful that we continue to sharpen each other. Iron sharpens iron, and I'm grateful for you, man. You that guy. I love you. You my brother.
Yeah, I love you too, brother. I appreciate the kind words, man. It's always good to get that uplift. Y'all hear them, though. Tune in, man. Listen to the other episodes, lock in. But Marcus, I appreciate you, brother, and I'm sure we'll be on here soon, man.